people who have had do it with their best friend's parent. How did it go? Story 1. I had a good friend in high school whose mom was super hot. I mean, super hot. Everyone knew this, it was known. Anyways, she was single and always seemed real flirtatious around me. Once I told her a joke in the kitchen, and she touched my arm and sort of leaned in and her titty grazed my elbow. It was amazing. I came for 45 minutes. Story 2. My mom took my best friend's virginity. That was the worst when I found out. Family cookout party. I invited the friends over to hang out and drink. Family was really lenient. We got pretty drunk and I noticed friend hitting on my mom. I was drunk enough to say something. This turned into a bit of a fight, and friend B pulled me to the side to calm me down. I know this sounds unreal or irrational, but he looked me straight in the face and said, "Don't be mad at Frenda. I'm the one that had S with your mom." Story 3. One time when we were around 12-13, my best friend and I were hanging out at his house. We fooled around, watched wrestling in his sister's room. Attempted said wrestling moves IRL, the works. Unfortunately, towards the end of our scrap, I managed to somersault off the edge of the sofa onto his arm at a strange angle. After that, not knowing it was already broken, I tried to junior WWE him into an armbar. Pretty sure the screaming woke up all the neighbors within a 12-block radius. I immediately let go, but he was groping his arm, crying, hollering, generally being a sook. Immediately, his mom came running out of the shower with nothing but a loose towel wrapped around her, flailing open in the sheer insanity of the moment. Hell, even 10 years later I remember it clear as day. It was awesome and a horrified sense. Anyway, I sat absolutely paralyzed on the bed, had no idea what the F to do. After she's loaded him in the car, she came back into the bedroom, where I was still sitting terrified, leaned toward me and whispered, "If only Op used a serious tag, we might be F now." Story 4. Obviously a throwaway. I have one of my best friend's mom for about a year. Her husband was cool with it, and a bit jealous she was doing an 18-year-old and he wasn't. I'm going to be a bit guarded with details, but she ran a business that involved traveling around parts of the country, and I was employed by her. Because I was out of school and an employee, her son never put two and two together. I would travel with her and stay in hotels with her. So it was her perfect cover. I don't really know how it started, but she and I hit it off. She asked me once if I wanted to blow or to be made love to. She's the only woman that has ever successfully asked me off to completion. It was wonderful. Most awkward moment was definitely when she said that's where Johnny came from, as I stuck it in her box. It's been almost 20 years now. You know that saying about older women really knowing what they're doing? Totally true. Story 5. I was hanging out with my friend after school at her pool, and I was seriously trying to get into her pants. Then I saw her mom. Oh God. I lost interest in my friend right then and there. Her mom left town on business and I did what I could to try to get her mom's attention when she got back. I was cutting her grass and her mom came out wearing nothing but a towel. I damn near tripped. Her mom just stared at me. I could tell she was into me right then. She pointed out a spot I'd missed in the yard. Just as she did it, her towel started to slip ever so slightly. My friend's dad walked out and left then. I knew right then I had a chance. I'd spent so much time around them, it was inevitable. I'd fallen for my friend's mom. My friend kept thinking I was coming over because I was interested in her. I finally had to break it to her and tell her she just wasn't the girl for me. I knew it might be wrong, but I'm in love with Stacy's mom. Story 6. Good friends and not me, but I was in the group of friends. She was 40 ish, he was 18. He bragged about it a bit until we laughed at him. She was at that age where she wanted to be reassured that she was still pretty. We sometimes see her and her husband at family events. He probably found out about it but seems to have accepted it. She is courteous but not over-friendly with us anymore. Story 7. Doesn't exactly fit the description, but here is a story that happened in my hometown. To a kid that I kinda knew a little bit, There was this famous mom in my hometown back when I was in high school, who had a big black Hummer with a license plate that said Humminger, don't know if it was spelled that way. People called her Hummer Mom. She was always driving around a bunch of kids. Her daughter was dating this one kid for a few years. He would always complain about his girlfriend, claiming that the only reason he dated her was because he was banging her mom. No one believed him. He started making these claims in 8th grade, and they carried through his freshman year of high school. Everyone just said he was a typical kid just full of shit. Turns out he wasn't lying. His mom found a nude photo of this woman in his phone somehow, and the whole story came out. The lady was then arrested for statutory rape, and her family subsequently moved out of our town in embarrassment. Looking back, I feel extremely bad for the poor girl who didn't know her BF was doing it with her mom. I can't imagine that kind of heartbreak she must have felt. I think the mom might still be in jail, might look it up in a sec. The kid kinda became a sort of legend in our town for a while after, as it was the most interesting thing to happen in a quiet suburb during high school. Story 8. One night me and my best friend go to our regular bar and his dad and stepmom decide to join us. His dad is a little older, so he tired out early and left, but the stepmom, we will call her Leah, decided to stay behind and drive us home. Since she doesn't drink, upon hearing that we had a designated driver, we started pounding shots heavily until we were both blackout drunk. I vaguely remember Leah following me around all night, like a little puppy. I kept telling my friends to save me from her, because her intentions were clear. The next morning I wake up with no recollection of getting back to my friend's house. My subconscious was telling me that something bad happened though, and it was nagging me all morning. Also, she was unusually up my butt all day, and she whispered to me at one point I would love to finish what we started last night. At this point, I knew something bad happened, but I had no memory whatsoever. Once I got home, I texted her to ask her what happened. She sends me a very long and detailed account of the night. She said that I refused to have sex with her, but I didn't fight the blow that she gave me. I literally did not remember any of it. Her husband and my best friend's dad happened to read that text and he was furious. I am no longer allowed over there. My friend doesn't hold it against me because he knows full well how drunk we were, because he didn't remember a thing either. Story 9. Finally, my time to shine. Well, kind of. The guy wasn't my best friend. He was a fraternity brother of mine. We have a big parents' alumni weekend every year, where we would organize a huge tailgate before a football game for our non-American friends. Tailgates are like big picnics that occur before a sporting event where everyone small talks, eats, and gets irredeemably shit-faced. This happened at a tailgate 4 years ago. So tailgate is going full swing, everyone's having a good time, when I randomly get partnered up with my fraternity brother's mom for a game of beer pong. This mid-40s woman was 3 things: blonde, busty, and a flirty drunk. Let's call her MILFzilla. As the game progressed, she started to get a bit handsy, rubbing my shoulder a little, or laughing and giving me a little push. By the end of the game, she had progressed to pinching my ass every now and then. Thankfully, her son and husband were going full tilt at the flip cup table at the other end of the tailgate, so no one was around to beat my ass. After the game, me and MILFzilla kept talking about stuff. By this point, I was feeling pretty lit myself. Finally, there came a moment when she took a look around. The kind of look that a drunk person thinks is discreet, but to a less drunk person looks like someone obviously scoping around to make sure the coast is clear. Satisfied, she steps up close to me and whispers in my ear, asking if I wanted to find somewhere a little quieter. Her hand brushed my crotch in a purposeful way, and she instantly had my undivided attention. I took my own look around and saw her husband and son still in the zone over at the flip cup table. Sober me couldn't condone this, but drunk me couldn't care less. We went into the fraternity house. We had one room that was more or less a storage room, but the size of a regular bedroom. One of the brothers had left behind a mattress the year before, and it had been laying there in that storage room for months, so I figured he wouldn't care if I put it to good use. As soon as we make it into the room, she's all over me. She near tears my dick off getting it out of my pants, and sets about giving me what I think to this day might be the best blow I've ever had. I pull her off me before I can nut, throwing her down on the mattress. We start F. With every passing second her moans and gasps are getting louder, and I'm inching closer to getting caught deep in this woman. I can feel myself getting close, and suddenly I can feel her tightening around me. With one final heave she screams out, "Shoulda slapped a serious tag on this, up." After that the night went pretty well. Most of the rest of this text is just to cover up the ending, so one gets suspicious. This is a sentence. This is also a sentence. Story 10. We weren't best friends, but a friend of mine helped me get a job in college at a fast food restaurant where his mom worked. She was a nice lady near twice my age. I was in my lower 20s and she was in her upper 30s, about 40. She and I got along well, but she was always playfully flirty. I didn't really think anything of it. But a few months into the job, she started borrowing money from me to get weed on the side. She was single, lived with a female roommate, kids had moved out, and she was heavily addicted to weed, like has to smoke several times a day. Or else she has panic attacks. I didn't mind because she always paid me back. And even though I don't really use it, I'm neutral and I am not judgmental about it anyways. She texted me one day saying she needed to borrow money for weed really bad, and offered if I bought it she would share it with me. I had only used once before or so, but it was at the start of a weekend and I had nothing planned and was bored, so I figured why not. Especially if it is with one person I know in a place I am familiar with. She came over and we shared a joint, and talked, and about halfway through she started to get flirty and joked that if she keeps borrowing money from me she might have to think of others ways to pay me back. I knew what was happening and didn't really object. She was a decently attractive woman in average shape and we were both single, so I replied that I wouldn't mind that at all. And she played coy, saying things like how long it has been for her and that she doesn't even know what it feels like anymore. And I just said that if we went upstairs she would rediscover what it felt like. Then we went upstairs. She was very vanilla in bed. Most of the excitement came from her being an older woman and my friend's mom. For the next 3 to 4 months we were friends with benefits. She'd come over after work every other night. She eventually lost her job though because she demanded a raise, and didn't get it, so she went off on our boss and the boss reacted by firing her. Things weren't serious between us, and I didn't really want a relationship and she couldn't support herself. So she ended up contacting an ex-boyfriend who lived in another state, and he paid to move her in with him. Story 11. I had a 3-ways with my friend's mom and her friend piss-ass drunk while my friend and his younger brother were there. She bought me plenty of booze, and her friend talked dirty to me all night. Woke up butt naked in her room the next morning. Managed to play off that I just effed the mom's friend and got out of there scratch-free. Or so I thought. Turns out a lot of people slept with his mom. One of my friends even got a rim job from her and bragged to the wrong person. A while had passed, and the younger brother of the mom got in a fight with one of his friends, and how I imagine it, his friend, instead of throwing punches, threw the most truthful your mom jokes anyone's ever heard and said, "At least my mom hasn't F all my friends." Everything came out. Sons got enraged. Damaged mine and another person's car, totaling the other person's car. My car just got a dent. No cameras and no witnesses made both of us pay money for it. 9/10 would bone again. At least my car wasn't the one that got total. Story 12. My friend, let's call him Dom, had S with his girlfriend's mom back in HS. They had been dating about 6 months, and her mom would always let us have parties over there. Every now and then she would party with us and get flirtatious, but I never thought anything of it. Well, one day Dom tells me he is gonna try and score with his GF's mom, and I told him he was F crazy. That night after another party I wake up to go pee, and I see Dom coming out of his GF's room. He stops, looks at me, and smiles as he slowly puts his finger to his lips. My head is exploding at this point because I realize that He is actually gonna go for it. Dressed in nothing but his boxers. Tom makes his way to doors down to her mom's room and without a knock goes right into the room. I'm in shock at the balls this kid had. I mean, there's no way she is gonna go for this. But to my ultimate surprise, 5 minutes later I hear moans coming from her room. Then the subtle thud of bed frame against wall starts up. I have no idea how to handle my shock, excitement. So I step out to go smoke and wait for Dom. 30 minutes he wakes me up with the biggest shit-faced grin. And asks, "Did you hear that?" I confirm and he replies, "Now I'm gonna F my GF." Story 13. I nearly did. His parents had recently divorced. And they were both doing the cliche recently divorced thing of screwing around as much as possible. The father had moved out already and his mom had a different new boyfriend every week for about 3 months before she calmed down and stayed single for a bit. I used to crash round his quite regularly as we knew each other through work and we lived over an hour from each other, both still living with parents. If we went out around his way I'd crash, etc. One night we are back from a night out but his mom hasn't got back yet. He's setting up the double sofa bed in the back room for his girlfriend and himself whilst telling me that I'll take his room as per usual upstairs, which has a single bed. On my way up he shouts, "Oh, by way, watch out that my mom doesn't climb into your bed tonight." I laugh and head up. A few hours later I am awoken by some cold as in just gotten cold hands running up my back. I squeal from the cold and surprise to find my friend's mom shing me and starting to climb into the bed. At this point I politely but nervously decline her advances, as she is very drunk and is my friend's mom. After a few minutes of "No, really," she heads to her own bed and that was the last of it ever. Not even an awkward good morning when I saw her in the morning, or anything of the sort. I never brought it up again, never told my friend, and I still don't know if she even remembers.